Well, we made it through Friday the 13th, and we made it through the first wave of COVID-19, and we made it through the election, and it's hard to really guesstimate what's coming next, but we made it back here in the studio at 104 New Mohawk, and not only are we here, but we've rebranded the building as Nevada County Resilience and Innovation Center. And welcome back to the Golden Road TV show. I've actually been off air for about 8 months. Strangely, we stopped right around New Year's to take a short winter hiatus, and we haven't been back. Been trying to practice safe distancing, been trying to be responsible, and also been trying to work on my own sustainability and food security here in the region. So welcome back. I want to thank Jim Heck and Tara for being here and helping to do the tech part of the show. And we actually have another broadcaster, host, publisher here in the studio today. I want to welcome to all of you an old friend and Rahasya Poe.
Not too old though, right?
Well, we haven't gotten to the age thing, but you're looking pretty good, despite everything in the world.
Hanging in there. And I guess one correction: we haven't made it through the election yet.
You had to remind me that. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole today, but Rahasya is a co-publisher with his wife Dara of Lotus Guide magazine, committed for over
almost 17 years now. Now we're the oldest magazine in that whole North Valley area.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know how that happens. I guess it just takes time,
Yeah, 17 years publishing Lotus Guide, which has been focused on holistic health here in our region and around the world. And you also survived the Paradise Fire right down the road.
Yep, it was close. Came like a block from the center. Our home made it because it's up in Magalia. So yeah, we made it through that. We made it through 2008, and we're making it through COVID-19. And we're hanging in there, as they say. Most people, when I ask them how we're doing, they say hanging in there. And I think we're doing okay. I've been in sort of a self-isolated kind of a situation where I've been listening to people more than talking. This is the first time I've talked, actually, in about 3 months. I do my podcast, but I just interview people and sort of stay out of the conversation,
Well, and it's interesting because you're one of the people I think who actually has a lot of good information to say and to share.
It's coming. I've just been listening because there's a lot of people out there that are really dedicated to this. And my problem is my kind of communication is Hegelian, like where you have two opposite opinions, but you find common threads, you work that out, and you find a way to negotiate your opposite opinions. But everybody is so polarized right now. Every time I say something, I have half the people adoring me and half the people hating me. So I've
Welcome to my life.
Yeah,
it's been before crazy. COVID has kind of been like that because really I think in our society, whenever we take a stand for anything, it can be very polarizing based on people's perceptions or misperceptions of reality. So yeah, it's really disturbing, and I think I know your work through Spiritual Activist Radio and Lotus Guide is to help educate people so that we can be more unified in our collective response to all these conditions that are happening. And so you survived. You're in Magalia, you survived the Paradise Fire, but strangely enough, it kind of gave birth to the Lotus Guide Center. Can you share?
Yeah, the Lotus Guide Center, and the digital format is becoming more and more popular too. And we're being drawn in this strange kind of an area. Like most of the magazine has to do with alternative health and living and lifestyles. But I'm being pulled into this other area with my Rahasya Uncensored column. Like not this issue, but the previous one was, are we tiptoeing towards totalitarianism? gradually being pulled into that.
That was a Tiny Tim song, right?
Yeah, it was.
Tiptoe,
Yeah.
tiptoe Italian.
Yeah, but
right?
these aren't tulips. We're
Oh, that was the tulips, okay.
Then this issue, I wrote an article on human trafficking, which is something that we all need to start talking about. And I know it's uncomfortable. It makes people emotionally uncomfortable.
Right.
But, I mean, do you want me to tell you a little situation that happened?
Regarding human
this?
trafficking, yeah.
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 I was at a dinner party with about, there was probably 15 people there. They ranged in age groups, but 60, 70, a couple of 80-year-olds, a couple of young people, but it came up about human trafficking and child trafficking in particular. And I had an elderly lady listening to us for about 5 minutes, and she said, "You know what? This makes me really uncomfortable emotionally." And I looked at her and I said, "You know what? I can respect the fact that you feel emotionally uncomfortable, but you have to really recognize what you're really saying. What you're saying is that your emotional comfort is more important than 2 or 3 or 4 million kids and what they're going through at this moment." I have a short tolerance right now with people regarding this.
Well, I think we live in a time where all the skeletons are coming out of the closet, right? And whether some of them are conspiracy theories or not, that everything is getting exposed. I mean, we have the internet. People all over the world are connected, and we see now how that's being kind of used as a tool of propaganda and even can be weaponized. And it's just so obvious. We can see a lot of people who we consider leaders have very personal and corrupt agendas. And I'm certainly not here to talk politics today, but we can see more and more that these things are becoming exposed. So it's a lot of these uncomfortable conversations are going to have to be breached to just evolve and move forward as a species and as a civilization.
Because on the other side of this coin is the spiritual consciousness involved in all of this. If we have to look at what's going on, we have to look at the darkness. But in that process of looking and observing the darkness, it ignites something in all of us when we feel the power of spiritual consciousness and light. And as you I remember when I was a kid, I was so afraid of walking into a dark room and turning on the light. And it took me a few times to realize I was not afraid of the dark. I was afraid of what I might see when I turn on the light. And ever since that moment, I'm not afraid of the darkness. Right. You know, it's fine with me, because if I take my light in there, and if I have a light of some kind of truth, I've learned not to shine it in people's faces. I shine it on myself, you know, and if that helps enlighten the room that they're in and they can come towards me, because you can't just hammer this stuff down somebody's.
Right. And a lot of times what we're fearful of is what we kind of create and conjure in our own imagination, in our own psychology, which can be even non-existent.
Yeah, because we're creating all of this. That's the humbling thing is, but once you realize you're creating all of this, we can create something different.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're just tuning in, you're watching Golden Road TV show. I'm your host, Michael DiMartino. I want to thank you for joining in. We're actually just kind of getting the cobwebs brushed off the studio here and starting to broadcast again. We're going to be here all winter long. And not only are we doing the Golden Road TV show, but we're in the process of trying to launch and this is something I want to share with you, a bioregional online channel for many different shows that are being created in our bioregion by extremely awake, enlightened, and grounded, insightful people, so that we can actually aggregate all of this information into one channel and then being able to put this out to the world. So this is our first show that we've done in a long time. And again, I want to thank Tara and Jim for being here. This is kind of the tail end of our Alchemy Expo that we started a couple months ago. It's a Spirit, Mind, Body Health Expo. And we had lots of great practitioners here today offering alternative, holistic health support for people in the community that are going through maybe a lot of trauma with what's happening right now with what's not happening that's not traumatic these days.
It's all happening at once.
Jeez. And so we're just starting the show up, and I'm really honored to have Rahasya Poe, publisher of Lotus Guide magazine and spiritual activist, and Rahasya Uncensored. We're going to talk for a few more minutes, and then after that, I'm going to invite Douglas Becker to come up. He's going to talk a little bit about his work with Tibetan medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, and also really happy because, you don't want to look at this for an hour, right? So we're bringing a little beauty to the beast. She was joking about Zach, and between two ferns, we only have one fern here, so we can't afford two ferns. It's a ficus. Oh, okay. See, I don't even know what my plant biology. And she's going to come up and talk a little bit. We're really hoping to have her help co-host some of these shows. And besides the Golden Road TV show, we're going to be again continuing to bring you bioregional resilient content about things you can do around conscious emergency preparedness, food, water security, personal health, and work around peace and justice and the environment and ecology. Some of the things that are happening here in Nevada County. Check out the website, empowernevadacounty.org, but they're trying to reopen the historic Idaho, Maryland mine, which would be a nightmare for this community, and other things that are happening. So this show combines not only education, but also inspiring some level of activism. So, again, you do so much. Where would we like to go with these last few minutes?
Well, I think the thing I've been in recently, the last two issues, is regenerative agriculture. When I started, and what turned me onto this is Kiss the Ground. It's a documentary you can watch on this. I was looking for something that affects everything. A food supply, air supply, water supply, everything. And regenerative agriculture could actually save this planet. But more importantly, it's something we can all do. I'm doing it in my backyard. I have a little garden up in my yard, and it holds carbon really good. It can turn dirt into really good soil, for water retention. And the whole thing, the secret is to not till your earth. We've been tilling the earth, even organic farmers. When you till the earth, you just ruin all the biome that's happening down below, and you release all the carbon.
Right.
And I highly suggest.
What's it called?
Kiss the Ground.
Kiss the Ground. And also, if people want to watch your
Podcast
show.
is at on bbsradio.com/spiritual activist. And our website is lotusguide.com for the magazine. And that's about it. That keeps me pretty busy.
And also, sending our love to Dara. I know there's been various challenges up there, but she's always in our thoughts and our prayers. And
she's almost always with me, except today. It's rare.
Yeah, I was shocked. So we're just send our love back and let her know we're thinking about her, and her presence is missed, and her dancing and her big Brazilian smile and her gracious heart. So
Yeah, she'll be here the next time.
great. So we're going to go over to a little segue here of Golden Road, one of our many theme songs that was specifically written for the show. And after that little video clip, we're going to come back with our. Why don't we bring Raina Satori on, and we'll bring some brevity to the moment, and then we're going to have a little more discourse with Douglas DeBecker, and we have a few other people that are waiting to come in the studio. So we'll be back in just a minute or two. Thanks.
It's the Golden Road TV show. It's the Golden Road TV show. Well, bridging the past with today for a better tomorrow.
Golden Road explores the intersection of arts, environment, culture, health, peace, justice, science, and technology, paving the road for positive social change.
It's the Golden Road TV show. It's the Golden Road TV show.
And we're back. A little bit of that was some music by Michael Shapiro. He wrote a few theme songs for us. That's very much in the spirit of some of the classic rock music from the 60s and 70s. And you're watching Golden Road TV show, which is now also a podcast. You can download the app and listen to it anytime. I will say we've been doing this show for 4 years, and we have over 100 2-hour shows. We've interviewed probably about 400 to 500 people, and we're going to actually be putting that into a library archive for the future. But most importantly, we're here live in the studio talking about things in the current moment of what matter, and bringing a little bit of beauty to the beast here. I want to welcome our. I'm trying not to wish too hard because I don't like to feel like I have an agenda with people, but I'm really hoping we can get you in here to co-host some events. So I want to welcome to the show Raina Satori.
Hi everybody. Thanks, Michael. I appreciate being here.
Absolutely, and you've been pretty busy.
I have been busy. There's a lot of activation to be done right now. Yeah. You want me to mention the assembly?
Yeah, if you could. Even though today we've been focused on spirit, mind, body, health. Part of I think of community health is people understanding the role of what peace and justice plays into that, and our sovereign human rights. So tell us a little bit about the Nevada County People's Assembly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm glad that you mentioned sovereignty. That definitely is what's going on right now. I feel like we are being asked to come into our sovereignty in so many different ways, just personally as humans, and then as a community, we're also being asked to come into our sovereignty. And that can be a really uncomfortable, awkward thing to do, because especially if we have been used to following and complying and doing what, being under the care of the government, to come into our sovereignty and work it all out for ourselves, it is a big job. So one of the things that I've been assisting with is what's called the Nevada County People's Assembly. And that is a gathering of people who are working to uphold our constitutional rights. And we use different types of paperwork, essentially, to encourage and essentially, I don't want to use the word force, but to heavily encourage our elected officials to also uphold the Constitution. So at this moment with the Assembly, what we're working on is helping to keep the businesses open. Our small businesses in this town are suffering. They're suffering badly. And this is a rather small town. Even though it is a tourist destination, there hasn't been as much tourism because of COVID.
And I think what's worth mentioning, too, that in Nevada County and Grass Valley downtown, since they're historic districts, there's no chains, there's no big box stores. All of these businesses are local mom and pop businesses owned by members of the community who survive, make their livelihood, pay their mortgage, feed their families by these businesses.
That's right. There's no corporate chains here, so there's no back $1 million in the back to bail them out, right? So we've been helping businesses to stay open by encouraging them to learn what their constitutional rights are, serving affidavits to the Board of Supervisors. And essentially just creating a support network so that if a business wants to continue to stay open, that they feel like they're not the only person doing that. It's very hard to go up against the status quo by yourself. So it's important that we form a team, that we stand together for what we know that our rights truly are, and that we do it in a way that feels... and this is what I feel like I'm bringing to it, like doing it from a place of joyousness.
That's one thing I did admire. I've been to actually originally the People's Assembly we tried to incubate here. It got so big so fast that we couldn't actually house the 100 or more people that were coming to the meetings. But the idea of people becoming an active part in that responsibility that we usually give to an elected leader, and then we trust that they're going to do the right thing. what was surprising to me is even, and not to get too heavily political, that a lot of people who run on the Board of Supervisors actually need about a $500,000 bond to even run, and a lot of times that's where these private interests come in and different agendas. And I've been working to help deal with some of the cronyistic leadership around the Nevada Irrigation District and the fact that they've been, poisoning our community through the blatant misuse of Roundup and heavy metals. So it's really, like you said,
rodeo now,
power to
right?
power to people to educate ourselves about our constitutional rights and how we can work together as a community and navigate these things. And I do want to acknowledge Joe Bonamolo,
yeah.
incredible effort, and I know
Incredible effort.
Dennis has been very key. We're actually doing a We the People series here in the studio, and just all the stuff that you're doing. But I wanted to mention the lightness. When we talk about this subject matter, and even sitting here on a very brief show, it can be very dense and hard to unpack. And I'm just going to put
I'm
on
just
that.
going to go with boring. Can be boring. It's just straight
Boring to terrifying.
But yeah, right. On the range from boring to terrifying, right?
Yeah. So
It's not a good spectrum.
That's why I'm happy you're here, because you really bring a certain lightheartedness to it, and you make it fun, and it makes it so people want to participate.
Yes, we have a maxim that we borrowed from Burning Man, which is no spectators. There's no spectating on the sidelines of paradigm change, right? So even if you're not the person serving the affidavits, even just showing up, educating yourself, and supporting other people who need that support is still being active. It's a weird time for activism because it's such an inactive time for activists. But it
Right.
turns out that the less activity you do, the happier the earth is, oddly, right? Like the skies have been clear in Mumbai for the first time ever, and maybe in some other cities in Japan and China.
Oh, China. Do you see China? They could actually see stars.
Right. So it turns out, like, when you think you're doing something, maybe doing less is actually better.
We're coming to that state of, like Buddha said, the state of beingness.
The state of beingness, yeah.
So besides all of your radical activism work,
Radical.
what does Reina Satori do? I know you're involved in the dance community and you're a
Yeah.
teacher. What, on a more personal, what's some of the stuff you do?
On a personal note, I do
Not that
spiritual-
personal.
I do spiritual satirical comedy. So I seek to educate people about different spiritual topics in a way that is funny and rhymes. I have something, I've invented a modality called the shamanic cheerleaders. Like our anthem cheer goes something like, if you want to be enlightened, then you've got to lighten up, relax, chill out, be here now. If you want to be enlightened, then you've got to lighten up, right? And it's important to bring levity. And let me just tell you, this is a hard time to be light right now. Nothing's funny. There's nothing funny anymore. So it's like, trying to bring the levity and joy back into us, I think, is such an important thing. There's a lot of people with a lot of really great missions, and I'm just sticking to that one. So I do stand-up comedy. I am working on producing some little ditties that maybe even will be filmed in this space.
Possibly.
Yeah. What else do I do? I have been, since COVID, I don't really do that much, but I enjoy nature. But what I have also been doing is teaching what's called contact improvisation. Again, contact, so awkward. Can't even do that anymore.
Right.
But teaching people the life skill of how to interact with one another from your innocent, childlike place, how to socialize again. And I really think that that's going to be super valuable because our whole socialization pattern has completely gotten blown out of the water.
Right.
Like kids, kids in schools.
So sad.
How's that going to be for them? How are they going to learn how to connect with another person again?
They actually call them Generation Glow now.
Oh, yeah?
Because they spend the majority of their time with the glow of a screen in front of their face.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that sad?
That is sad.
I remember growing up, sticks and stones, out in nature,
Right.
chasing squirrels, simple joys.
Yeah.
And somehow, in this highly technological world, and I do want to acknowledge the way that we can use technology as a very valuable tool, but somehow we've sacrificed a really essential part of our humanity, and I think a lot of that actually plays into so much we see right now with depression. I mean, record suicides, domestic. I mean, again,
It's gnarly.
trying to keep it. It's gnarly. So, I think that's part of why we've been inspired to do these Alchemy Expos here, to try to look at spirit, mind, body wellness, and look at some of the root issues that actually become these symptoms that we see so prevalent in this
Yeah.
day and age.
Well, on the thread of body and mind health, I am 100% positive. Is there a doctor in the house to make sure that this is actually true?
He's-
There's 2 doctors in the house.
Wow.
Go figure. 3 doctors. Wow, there's a lot of doctors in the house. Is it not true that our connection with each other really boosts our health? You know, like we need each other. We're herd animals, even though we don't necessarily act like it. So the separation and the lockdown is devastating to whatever that is.
That parasympathetic nervous system, that chemistry of human connection.
It's no bueno.
Yeah.
It's no bueno. So, you know, I just want to encourage people to stay connected in whatever way they can. And technology is bad, except for this show, okay? So when you're done with this show, then go outside and play.
There you go. So again, you're watching a Golden Road TV show, Bridging the Past with Today for a Better Tomorrow. And I want to thank Reina Satori for taking some time. We have a few other people that are going to come in, but why don't we go to another theme song interlude here, and we're going to ask up Douglas DeBecker, and we have a couple other really high-level people that are here today. Again, the
What level am I? Am I mid-level? Which level?
I don't even think there's a chart for you.
Yeah! Awesome.
But I resonate with that. That's the good thing. Like, somehow we're affirming and validating our harmonious coexistence in this strange sphere of contemporary reality.
So good.
Absolutely. So, okay, so we're going to take a little break, and we'll be back in just a minute with Douglas D. Becker with Golden Road, another theme song by Michael Shapiro.
Living my life like it's golden. Living my life like it's golden.
You got to get the pom-poms in the
Yeah, I will. We are definitely going to do that. Thank you.
It's a golden road, TV show. Yes, it's a golden road, TV show. Well, we've got it all going on here. It's a Golden Road TV show. .com.
And we're back. Nature calls. So I want to welcome to our next guest on the show. You're watching Golden Road TV. Again, we're trying to bridge the past with Today for a Better Tomorrow, focused a lot on health and wellness, peace and justice, the environment and ecology, and sustainability, and definitely things that are even more evidently needed in the world. We've been doing this show now for over 4 years. We've produced over 100 two-hour shows. This is my first guest co-host here, the Plant. So we want to welcome the Plant to the show. The Plant got more applause than me. That's sad. I quit. And today's broadcast is part of the Alchemy Expo, and we do it once a month. Everything that we're doing you can check out on Golden Road Productions. And to be safe, we're doing very small vetted events. It's through membership and invites. We're not hosting large public events and gatherings, and we're trying to maintain functionality while still practicing safe distancing and community awareness. So really happy to introduce my next guest, and really a brilliant practitioner of both Tibetan medicine and Ayurvedic medicine, and I've got to actually, over the last few months, call him a friend and get to know him more. I want to welcome to the Golden Road, Douglas D. Becker. So welcome.
Thank you.
So how'd it go today?
Oh, went good.
It's kind of quiet, not quite as, well, you weren't here last month.
Right.
You're also a father.
Yes. Yeah, 2 daughters.
2 daughters.
Uh-huh.
2 daughters, all right. And so you were here today, you had a setup and you were doing some consulting around...
Yeah, I had a consultation. It was good.
Great. So for those who might not be familiar, what is Tibetan medicine, or the premise of Tibetan and Ayurvedic medicine and your work?
Tibetan medicine. So I like to say I practice integrated traditional medicine. And that's because Tibetan medicine was one of the first integrative medical systems. Yeah. It combines Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, Siddha medicine, which is the real indigenous tradition of India, and Unani, which is Egyptian Greek medicine, and then the shamanic traditions of the Himalayas.
Wow. Which is like the rishis and the nagas and...
Yeah, it's
Pre-Buddhist?
pre-Buddhist. Yeah, the Siddha tradition is a really ancient tradition from southern India. A lot of them went up to the Himalayas, had kids, had families, and that was thousands of years before the Buddhist yogis came.
Wow.
Then when the Buddhist yogis came, there was a little bit of some resistance to allow Buddhism in, and then some of the Buddhist yogis showed up and kind of made a good argument for being there, and they were allowed to be
Well, it's
there.
interesting. I used to be more of a practitioner of Buddhism. Somehow it kind of just integrates into your consciousness after a period of time. But it's really fascinating, the stories about Padmasambhava.
Yeah, that's the particular one that I'm talking about that came, because see the Bon tradition, the yogis kind of with the indigenous people in Tibet, they were really quite powerful, and the initial Buddhists that came to bring Buddhism into Tibet didn't really have much actual power in a way, and so they thought that they were kind of unqualified to be in that area. And so when Padmasambhava came, he had like almost like shamanic wars with the yogis there, and then they highly respected him, and they weren't trying to get rid of the Bon indigenous tradition. They just wanted permission to be there.
Right. Well, that's an amazing thing I think about Buddhism in general as a religion or spiritual philosophy or even a psychology. Really, Buddhism has all these facets that it's very much incorporates and acknowledges other traditions. I was lucky enough to spend time with the Dalai Lama on a few occasions, and he acknowledges all the different religious paths and that they all have aspects of truth, and if that's how you find your connection to the larger source energy, then that's fine. So they're very, very inclusive. You don't really hear many Buddhists going out and initiating wars or conflicts, and actually, sadly enough, a lot of the Buddhists have been really under a lot of persecution by the Chinese government. So very, passive, compassion-based culture. And I'm sure that carries over into the medical tradition also.
Mm-hmm.
So typically, if someone came to you as a practitioner, do you have a process of evaluating them, or how you can start your
Sure.
consults? Can you share a little bit about that?
Well, the first thing is that, and this is what I wrote the book about actually, the main focus of the book.
Which I'll say is a principle of harmony and healing, unity in the mystery and history of medicine.
Yeah. And so...
I just want to read that again. That's wow. That's pretty heavy, Mr. D. Becker. I'm going to say that again. Principle of harmony and healing, unity in the mystery and history of medicine. And this is your book.
Yeah.
Gunasilian D. Becker.
Yeah. So, one of the things I noticed when I was traveling through Asia and studying also in South America as well, I lived out of the country for about 7 years, traveling and studying, is that the modern idea of like what hat you wear in terms of what tradition you belong to. The walls between the traditions were actually pretty thick. And, like either if you were practicing Chinese medicine and that's your identity, or you're practicing Ayurveda and that's your identity, and they're not like the same. They're different. You do this thing, I do this thing. And traditionally, when I looked into the history more, and even with speaking to teachers of the history, before there wasn't this huge delineation of what medicine system you were practicing. You were just from a different region in the world. You were practicing medicine. And so, so when I see a patient, the main idea with indigenous medicine in general is that the healing that's happening for a patient isn't really from the medicine or technique or power behind whatever you're doing. That the real healing is actually taking place from within the person, that they have their own power and the body has its own intelligence. And the activating catalyst is actually the relationship that's being generated between the two people. And so traditionally in indigenous medicine, it wasn't really, it was like the human relationship that was the primary weight of the healing power that happened. After that, the knowledge of indigenous medicine is incredible. Actually, the depth of what they knew how to make, they were doing nanomedicine, thousands of years ago. We're just catching up actually in that field. And so, but even with all the data that they had about substances and making medicines and purifying substances and therapies and all this stuff, the main, at least 50% of the system and the power of the indigenous system was the relationship that was made between the patient and the doctor. It wasn't like the knowledge that the doctor had to think to find out what was wrong that needed to be fixed with the person. It was actually generating a relationship with them and having that kind of energetic foundation be really the place where the person's own intelligence inside of their body could rise up from and heal themselves.
And it's interesting too, because in a lot of the more non-Western medicine, they look at the whole being, the mental, the emotional body, the spiritual body, and the physical body. Here in the West, typically in Western medicine, and my daughter is a physician, so I don't want to discredit her years of hard work and all the great work and contribution and that Western medicine has made, certainly in a modern world where we have all these new illnesses and various things happening, which again can go back to systemic imbalances. But they look at the whole organism, the whole being, and all the different facets. And not only that, but also we have learned a lot about genetic astrology, how some of us actually carry illnesses, not necessarily like genetic in our genes, but we carry these genetic, almost karmic disruptions in our field actually through maybe our parents or our ancestors or people who lived in our bloodline and our genealogy actually before us. We somehow inherit these energetic imbalances and disturbances.
Yeah, it's I'll tell you an interesting story actually. You reminded me of, I had one patient who was born without sweat cells, meaning that he couldn't sweat. And so he had like boils all over his skin, and his hair was half there, and yeah, and really nice guy. Him and his wife came and saw me, and I asked him about what his parents did for a living, because in the indigenous tradition, about 80% of skin disorders has to do with what you could say bad energy that arises in a person through energy of nature that gets disturbed when you mess with water or when you clear land or do stuff like that. they look at it as like nature spirits or nymphs, or there's different names for them, but that those energies actually can overnight cause a person to have like severe skin disorder that becomes very complicated and almost uncurable from Western tradition means.
This is such a perfect segue for our next guest.
Cool.
I'll just say that.
I asked him because he was born that way, right? So he inherited that.
Wow.
It's not like he was in. So he said, "Oh well, they were farmers," and I'm like, "Oh, farmers." I'm thinking maybe they moved land. I was like, "So did they move a lot of land?" No, they just grew a little food and stuff. I'm like, "Okay." So kind of put
Did
that
they use
out.
Roundup? No.
Well, it turned out after a couple of weeks of getting to know him and a little bit better, I think the third week he came in again, and I found out that his parents were cattle farmers in Africa. They had like something like 3,000 acres and the cattle had of course destroyed the land there. Wow. And so it's just interesting. It's hard to prove that kind of stuff scientifically, but. We have inherited disorders, from...
Well, it's interesting because I'm a big researcher of like quantum mechanics, and they actually have established that if everything in the universe is made up of atoms, but there's something called I don't like the name of it, dark matter, but there's some force that connects all of these atoms and fields and cells, because even this thing here, even though it appears solid, right, it's kind of a aggregation of molecules. So they're finding now that in a lot of these quantum theories that there is an invisible, undetectable unless you're trained, or you have had a certain visionary experiences, let's say, to perceive that. But there is this actual field that flows through everything and connects everything, and that has a huge effect on our unified field. So of course anything that we do externally, any feeling we think or maybe thought we have, of course is going to reflect back and become part of our field itself too. So it's really a fascinating time, I'm sure, in medicine also.
Yeah. So they say that, they say the cause of all illness is ultimately ignorance or forgetfulness, and it's forgetfulness of two points. They say one is that we forget that we're all interconnected, and then the other is that we forget that everything changes. And because of those two things, we can think of it intellectually, like, oh yeah, scientifically we're all interconnected. But then when push comes to shove in a certain situation, we're like, okay, that's not me, that has nothing to do with me, and this is me, and that's not. And then we have this emotional reaction to it. Or the same thing with things changing the way we don't want, for instance. And so the emotional reaction to that or those events is what in indigenous medicine they say is kind of like what causes us to then go outside of the harmonious order of nature and incorporate things into our lifestyle and our diet that increase elements beyond what we really need. And so even though we have a kind of a disposition from where we're born, we can increase that or go to the opposite direction because of our emotional reaction to things. And those are the things that we react to. So the idea is that if we could remember always that we're interconnected and could always remember that everything's changing, then we would always be manifesting our ideal kind of genetic disposition. And then that's the only thing we would have to manage.
Wow.
Like if we're a little, cold or a little hot, and then we just kind of manage that. But because of the emotional component, things get really complex, and then we gravitate towards those things that make it worse, actually.
And we would save a fortune on health insurance.
Yeah.
Right. So I could chat about this for hours. I mean, my interest in health and wellness and its relationship to our spiritual condition, and also socialization and how different parts of the world looks at it, is a real fascinating subject. I do want to say we're going to have you back, hopefully, on many occasions for our Tuesday night TV show. You'll be coming in and contributing some various health tips.
Cool.
For all of us, and we're going to be doing that every Tuesday night live from 8 to 9 p.m. here live from the Nevada County Resilience Hub. Today is kind of a special event of the Alchemy Spirit, Mind, Body Wellness Expo. So we're starting up the studio today. And again, I want to thank Tara for helping to actually make this broadcast possible. And I want to thank you for coming in. So any last pearls of wisdom you might be able to leave? Because you're so worldly traveled. We were sharing some great Babaji stories. And
I think that is to pay attention to stress. Really, stress is like the biggest issue. It makes everything develop or not able to develop, and that I think if everyone kind of backs up a little bit from the push of what they're reacting to and realize that there's a huge amount of energy that's going into maintaining their disposition of why things shouldn't change a certain way or why things should be disconnected in a certain way, and like really encourage the idea of getting in touch with emotional intelligence and how you feel, which is very difficult for a lot of people nowadays to even know what they're feeling.
Especially with a constant pipeline of corporate media and bad news, and that's being almost IV pipeline to people 24/7 on radios and on the internet and on television. So words of wisdom.
Yeah.
So great to have you here. And if you just tuned in, you're watching the Golden Road TV show. We have a couple more guests coming up. We're going to just do our broadcast tonight and in the future. And in the past, we've done 2-hour broadcasts with music and storytelling, and we're going to still incorporate that into the magazine format of the show. But we're kind of just getting the wheels going, so you can always be prepared to be educated and entertained. And in the future, we're going to actually have it so people can make comments and chat in, and we can help answer questions and actually interface with the community of people who are our audience and viewership. So once again, I want to thank you for being on the show, and we're going to go over now to another musical segue for Golden Road TV with Michael Shapiro. This is another piece of original music that he put together in the spirit of the show, and we'll be back in just a few minutes with Ty and Nora from Energy.
Thank you.
It's a Golden Road TV show. It's a Golden Road TV show. Well, listen once, listen twice. Oh, won't you please take my advice? It's the Golden Road TV show.com.
We're going to be done in 10 minutes. Great. Thank you.
Check.
You guys always look so good, dressed so. And we're back. And again, thank you so much, Tara, for being here, helping to make the technical part of the show happen. And I'm really happy. You guys look so radiant.
Thank you.
All white on black. That will do it every time. Well, it's also somehow symbolic, too. And welcome back to the Golden Road. I'm your host, Michael DiMartino, and very happy and honored to have on the show today two of the presenters from the Alchemy Spirit, Mind, Body Expo, where we're focusing on community health. And we don't just offer massage and chiropractic, but we're really bringing in people who are working at a whole other level of energy medicine, and are very much people presenting their work, really new paradigm stuff, some based in ancient traditions like Douglas DeBecker, and some of it is really at the cutting edge, and are really offering a lot of support in the area of healing to our community. So I want to welcome to the show Ty and Nora from Energy.
Thank you, Michael.
Hello.
Great. So I got to experience a little bit of some of your work today. What were some of the things you guys were working with today as far as some of the people? Really, I mean, I have to say some of the stuff you guys work with is just fascinating. I don't always understand it, but it's really incredible to watch you guys work and some of the tools. So can you share a little insight about your work with Energy?
Well, today we were showing some of our healing tools that we make, and then there is our co-worker in our True Quantum Healing work. He has a tool maker, and we sell his tools, and they're very inexpensive, and we provide those so people can maintain their own energies for cheap, basically. So it's not this big expensive thing. So you can kind of take your healing of your energies, clearing and charging your auric field and etheric field all on your own. So you're not constantly going to somebody or something to.
So as healers, you're making yourself obsolete.
Absolutely.
Eventually.
Absolutely.
I don't want to say obsolete because I know you guys. I think the work you do is much more than that. But it is fascinating to see some of these tools that you really don't see in any other parts of the world. I mean, you guys are really doing some fascinating work.
Yeah, the tools that we create is a concept of orgonite that we have developed even further by adding 60 crystals and also precious metals into the mixture. And so now we're creating a healing tool. You can utilize them as a wand or things to direct energy. We can direct energy, we can move energy, and we can draw energy with our healing tools. And we also have the crystalline line, which are there's the sun ring and there's a neutralization ring, and those are also made with precious metals. So not only that we can also, as practitioners, clear a person, but also we teach them how to clear and maintain their energies.
Which is important because you're not just doing the work. I know some people I know who are involved in the healing modalities actually have gotten really frustrated because they're giving people this information and knowledge, but yet they come back a week later and they haven't implemented anything. They haven't done anything. So they're just like, okay, I'm back for this again. And at some point, I'm sure it gets exhausting trying to constantly elevate people in their awareness and spoon feeding them that, but they're not really taking responsibility for their own healing process.
Correct. And well, with our work and working with so many people, locally and globally, we've tried to identify patterns on why people can't absorb information, and a lot of it has to do with how they think about things, their education, the effects of technology on their thought processes. I hate to say it, mind control.
Right.
Social engineering and stuff. And so if I can kind of go around that or dispel it, dissolve it, or educate them about it so they can look at what's going on.
Right.
Sometimes people will raise their ability levels. Sometimes they will progress quicker. Some people won't though, but often people will if it's explained what's going on and why things are needed. Sometimes they'll get it, and then they will take their healing journey as their own instead of me just guiding them as a guru from up here.
Right.
Generally speaking, I don't do the spiritual guru thing. I don't do anything. I don't try to elevate myself. I'm someone who's been most often in the same place that people come to us are. So I always go from the same level. Like, hey, I've been there, so let's meet here. And from someone who's transitioned to some difficult spiritual aspects, here's how you might want to approach that.
Right, and it might be paradoxical to say, but I observe that in your work, and actually you have, in my perception, and a world of respect because of the humility of how you work. Now, obviously, there's a high level of awareness and intelligence that is involved in the work that you do. But again, I love that you approach it, because so many people these days, for instance, I just went to an event in Los Angeles, and it was this mansion full of healers, and everybody was adorned and self-adoring, and I'm so incredible, and all these healers. But it was like it was so hard to actually get to what the healing essence of their work was, because so much time was spent on, and maybe it's just part of the mythos of the culture of LA, but with self-promotion and how wonderful and how fantastic and they were. And it really diluted, I think, the potency, and this is kind of goes back to what Douglas was saying, between the practitioner and the person they're working with. It kind of makes toxic that human connection of being able to feel related to, and also the fact that you're not guruizing yourself, which immediately puts you on a whole different plane. So I just really want to acknowledge that about both of your work.
Thank you.
And very, really impressive. And even watching you guys work and some of the tools you have, I want to inspire anyone who is out there to get in touch if you are in support of work. So typically, I know you do a lot of work all over the world, and I appreciate you coming here to share your global level skills and actually be on the show. Again, I know you're not here to do a self-promotion, and again, I appreciate that, but I really thank you for coming and just sharing some insights and your presence with people. So when people come to you, do you both work in tandem? Does one person do a specific aspect? Is there some level of, how do you analyze what people's situations are? How do you start to approach a stranger walking up to you for help and support?
Easy.
Since I'm more computer proficient, I'm the secretary, so I field the work. No,
He's the captain.
I'm the captain. No. Generally speaking, we decide who has the best skill set for what the client's needs are, and we also get referrals from a Canadian healer.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Kaler.
Holistics.
He's in Canada.
And he's very busy. He's booked up 6 months in advance. When he gets emergencies, we're like his go-to people. So we get a lot of people that need kind of spiritual triage. They have severe phenomena,
Alien abduction.
those sort of things. Spiritual curse issues.
Emotional issues.
Well, I know
Awakening issues.
Well, and again, I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole, but I know in this day and age, the use of indigenous plants is very popular, and I see a lot of people dabbling in that area. And I had the fortunate opportunity to be around some various indigenous medicine men, women practitioners, and I see now there's this whole culture of recreationalizing
Recreationalizing.
very powerful
Medicine.
plant medicines and
Yeah.
people subjecting themselves to very.
Dangerous.
Would you talk a little bit
Positions.
about that?
Absolutely. It is very dangerous, especially the way they're utilizing it now with recreation, because you're opening portals to other sides, other dimensions, other beings that a lot of people are not well educated on. And these beings can be very damaging to the consciousness of that being. Once they get into that person's mind, they could really take over and cause a lot of pain.
Agreed.
Absolutely, and in many traditions they manifest as psychological disorders, emotional imbalances.
Voices in the head,
Yeah.
constant anxiety, pains in the heart, lack of motivation, ego seems to pop up. And it's really difficult when we get people like
That's
that.
a worse virus than COVID.
When we get, and you know,
Not to diminish the impact of COVID or make fun of something that's really sad, but again, even in so much of our political process, so much ego, so much self-importance that people are wielding. It's really it's damaging a whole society.
yeah,
Yeah.
and they will die, and they will take us with them if they don't come to their awakening. And so it is really difficult because we get these cases of people. You always hear of all these amazing awakenings people take on the shamanic medicines, but you never hear of the people that are suffering. And we are the ones that hear that. And we are the ones that have to deal with those things. Pick up
Yeah,
the
so-
pieces after.
So there's very few people. If you go to those realms and have difficulty come back, there's very little support that you'll
Right.
get, and there's very few people that have the skill sets to put you back together or even have the chance to. So that's one of those things that needs to be discussed because it's not a free ride.
All right.
And I'm not diminishing the fact that certain people do have transformative and awakenings and things,
Yeah.
but when it goes wrong, there's no skill sets.
Right.
That you're basically dumped on the road.
Lump into the crazy, and then also the next thing would be a psych ward.
Right. Well, it's interesting because we're seeing that even now with our understanding of PTSD, people in the military returning from combat. I mean, there's
We
such.
deal with a lot of the military people too that we
Wow.
assist, and
Wow.
it's something else. Let me tell you.
Yeah, it's so sad to go into what people think is service to our country and a good cause, and then get damaged and are kind of
You said it, damage.
put aside. So we have another minute too. I don't want to abuse the time I have here with Tara running the tech side of the show, and again we want to thank her for showing up and stuff, and also Jim Heck, who offers us support. I also want to thank them. A couple weeks ago we live streamed the Auburn Powwow, and we had over 30,000 viewers for that.
Wow.
So we're going to have them back on the show talking about what they're doing in the indigenous community. And we have another minute or two left. And I always, again, like to get out of the way and just offer space for any words of wisdom, any practical information or knowledge we can impart upon our listeners that they can do in the privacy and security of their own home. Something that, a useful piece of information for them.
Okay, so very important to be mindful of what you're consuming mentally, spiritually, emotionally. Always take a step back and look at the information. Don't consume the information. Keep yourself cleansed. Keep yourself, go into nature. Don't allow them to control you by your emotions.
She said it fine.
She's a tough act to follow.
Yeah, that was good. What she said.
All right.
Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Again, a world of appreciation. This is, November 15th. And we are just getting the wheels going again. You're watching the Golden Road TV special edition coming live from the Nevada County Resilience and Innovation Hub here, which is home also of Nevada County Tech. And just happy to get the show back happening. We will be broadcasting every Tuesday night from 8 to 9 p.m. as a magazine formatted show with lots of presenters and music entertainment. We also like to take the cameras out of the studio and show other things that are happening. Of course, a lot of things are not happening right now. It seems like pretty soon we'll be going again from orange to red and probably closing down again on some level, but we're committed to maintaining being a lighthouse in this tumultuous and stormy time here in the human condition. So thank you for watching, and we'll be back on Tuesday. And subscribe to the channel, tell your friends about it, and we always appreciate your good intentions, love, and support. Thank you so much. I'm your host, Michael DiMartino, and we'll be back on Tuesday evening live from 8 to 9. And of course, all of these shows are archived on YouTube. And again, big props to Tara. Thank you so much. And to all the presenters here at the Alchemy Expo. And with that, we'll leave you with a little more of music on the timeline for the Golden Road.
It's a Golden Road TV show. It's a Golden Road TV show.
Golden Road explores the intersection of arts, environment, culture, health, peace, justice, science, and technology.